Hey y'all, it's your girl Dee Dee from That's Just TMI. Welcome back to That's Just TMI channel. You've been catching up. You saw Steve Anderson a couple weeks ago. We talked about Black love and the family. I'm here with my girl Tiffany Don. She got it going on. Your Here bestie, and Tanis Russell. That's right. I said Tanis Russell. You may not have heard of her, but once we're done this interview, you're going to want to get to know her. So let me tell you a little bit about her. Tanis Russell is a clinical practice leader in the GTA Acute Care Hospital and an experienced registered nurse, skilled in critical care and emergency medicine. Tanis is passionate about the development of health policy initiatives and facilitating nursing education for nurses at every stage of their career. I know some nurse friends who'd probably want to get to know you right now. Tanis has received a bachelor's degree in nursing at the University of New Brunswick and a master's degree in nursing with a focus on health policy and leadership in education through Ryerson University. Tanis is a proud inductee of the Sigma Theta Tau International Honor Society of Nursing. That is amazing. Welcome, Tanis.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here with us on That's Just TMI. And we wanted to talk to you a little bit as you are a nurse. You're at the forefront. You are in the midst of COVID, and you're also Black. In our last interview with Steve Anderson, he mentioned how recognition matters. When you can see someone that looks like you in power or in a specific role, it also makes you feel like you as well can achieve it. So we wanted to start by you telling us a little bit about yourself. Outside of what was just read, tell us something.
Okay, so, well, I'm a registered nurse. I've been a nurse for 10 years. Nursing is actually a second career for me. I didn't become a nurse until my early 30s. Prior to that, I was a personal trainer, and I was also working in HR. So I've been working around for a little bit. So yeah, so nursing is not new to me. I'm a little bit of a unique situation, I would say, as most of the nurses in the profession currently became nurses mainly out of high school, whereas I've kind of had a little bit of life experience first before going into nursing. So I think my experience is a little bit different and unique compared to some others.
Interesting. So how long then have you been doing nursing?
10 years. I graduated with my bachelor's in 2011, and then I graduated with my master's in 2017. In between that, I attended Durham College and received my critical care certificate. So I've always been pursuing education since I graduated.
Wow. So then why nursing? Why did you switch from what you were doing before to get into nursing?
So interestingly, my mom is a nurse. And I remember being a little girl and seeing all of her anatomy books. And I legit would steal her anatomy books, go into my room, and at nighttime read them. And I was so fascinated with the human body and everything that it can do. And I would just flip through the pages. And I remember all the time she'd be like, "Where's my book?" She always knew I would have her book. So from very early, I've been just in love with the human body and what the human body can do. I honestly thought I probably was going to be a doctor, but life had different plans for me. So, I became a mom very early in my teenage years. So my focus then had to change to being a mom, and I became a wife very early as well. So because of that, I kind of had to go into what was easier to get into at the time. So that fell into office managerial roles and HR, like I mentioned. And then I had this great passion for personal training. I've always been very, athletic growing up, did figure skating for a very long time, ran track and things like that. So became a personal trainer. And it actually helped me pay for first nursing school. And I remember one day I was at work in this office role, and I was just there, and I was planning the company barbecue, and it was probably like the third year of me being there. And I remember sitting on the phone, and I was talking to my friend, and I was like, "I do not want to do this anymore," And he was like, you know, you really want to be a nurse, because I always speak very passionately about the body and nursing. And he's like, you know, you really want to be a nurse. Why don't you just go back to school and be a nurse? And of course, by this time I was divorced early. I had 5 children. And I wasn't sure how I was going to quite get that done, but I managed to get it done. So yeah, and I excelled at it, became very natural for me, and I just enjoy it. It really is my life's passion.
I just need a timeout here. Sis.
I know.
You said it so effortlessly.
I know, right?
Well, you know, I have 5 kids and early, everything happened early. And now I'm a superwoman. Like, really? That is amazing. And I don't want you to just bulldoze past that.
Okay.
Because your mindset at such an early stage, to have that community around you to put you to remind us and hold us accountable to what we really want. Like I was saying in a past interview, like sometimes we have to be so uncomfortable in order to like get to the next level.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And the fact that you were on that phone and you're like, I don't want to order the people's burgers.
Yeah.
Get your own fries in corn. Okay? But it's like, that is so, like, you really had to put your mind in another place to get to where you are, because that is not easy as an individual. That is not easy as a single mother. That is not easy as a mother of 5 children, child. Like, I hope you pat yourself on the back every day.
No, you know what?
Why?
It's so interesting. I hear that so often, but it to me, that was just a course of my life, and I just did what I had to do. I don't look at it as this great accomplishment, but I appreciate people who do. I really do. I just look at it as something I had to do for myself and for my kids. So I just did it. Yeah.
So you were talking about, you know, being in the workplace and having your internal struggle of like, I don't want to be here with the people. So can you tell us about some struggles that you have faced, maybe not at that job, but as a Black nurse, and being in the position that you're in? What kind of struggles did you acquire?
Okay, many. I don't think we have enough time to talk about them all. I would say, so going into my first job, so I was one of the fortunate ones, if you want to call it fortunate, to leave from my undergraduate degree and go directly into an acute care setting. A lot of the times nurses, once they come out of school, they go to like the medicine floor, a surgical floor, something a little bit less acute so they can learn their skills. I went directly into emergency and split that. And then 6 months later went into critical care. So I had to learn a lot of stuff very, very quickly. And it's quite a learning curve because what they teach you in school is basic as basic can be. So going into a critical care environment with a lot of senior nurses in of itself was very difficult because they expect you to come as prepared as they are, not recognizing that they've done this for 20 years and I have not. So the support, unfortunately, I was not really there the way that I had expected it to be. So there's a lot of trial and error. I will honestly admit that. A lot of days I went home crying. And question whether this was even what I wanted to do anymore. In terms of being Black, I experienced a lot, saying things and being stared at. I was one of the very few out of maybe 140 nurses. I was one of 4 or 5 Black people who worked in the unit. Wow. So there's not a lot of us.
Which is crazy because I feel like there's a lot of Black nurses.
Me too.
There are a lot of Black nurses, but at my particular facility. I'm a little bit removed from the GTA. So yeah, it's a different environment. Yeah, and I was one of very few. So that was a challenge of in itself. And when I would speak, people would kind of just stare at me. And I could never understand why they were staring at me. And then one day this lady said to me, Tess, you're very articulate.
No.
And I remember not quite knowing how to take that at the time.
I wish I had my earrings on today so I could just take them off. That's unbelievable.
Yeah,
unbelievable, eh?
Yeah, unbelievable. Sorry, I'm just plugging this in here. And because I never experienced that, because I grew up in like areas like Scarborough, I grew up in Brampton, I lived in Toronto. So coming all the way down where I am right now, it was a complete culture change for me, but I'm cool. I could slide with it. But yeah, when some of those comments would come out, like I had locks at the time too, very long locks, pretty much down to my waist. And all the time, like, oh my goodness, like, can I touch your hair? And
no.
What do you say in moments like that? I honestly did not.
Exactly. The answer is no.
I know. But at the same time, too, what I realized was that their exposure to Black people was honestly close to none. And I had the choice to either, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, but is that an excuse for them saying, you're actually articulate? Is that your real hair?
I know.
Had the tables turned.
I know.
You're very articulate.
It took me a while.
Karen.
Now, I will explain, because I knew I had larger goals, I kind of tried to play it safe and toe the line, right? Didn't really reveal too much of myself. Just kind of went there to work, learn what I could, and go home at the end of the day. So little things like that would happen. I think I would kind of just laugh it off and just be like, okay, that was weird. Yep. And then almost question myself as to whether I was being too sensitive. Do you know what I mean? So it was some of that. But of course, like I said, I wanted to pick my battles, because I knew that one day I was possibly going to come back as their leader. I needed to be very careful as to how I went about working. So I just focused on being the best nurse that I could and supporting those who needed support within the unit during the 6 or 7 years that I worked on the unit as a nurse. So yeah, that would be my story. In terms of being the clinical practice lead, yes, I have definitely experienced a lot of microaggressions, I would say, some not so micro within the leadership role. Once again, because I'm in leadership, I am on my team of 30. I am the only person who's Black. So there were some challenges with that as well. Of course, because the role I'm in is considered mid-management. I sit at the table with a lot of the bigger dogs, and I would find that I didn't feel heard very much being at that table, to be quite honest with you. Many times I would be in meetings, I would say something, I would get those looks once again, like, what is it that she was saying? Or what is it that she's trying to say? Or people would rephrase what it was that I said, almost making me feel like I wasn't speaking properly, or I didn't know how to form a proper sentence. So after a while, I became very silent in the boardroom, very silent. I would just go in there and just listen to everybody and nod and smile. I also had a situation one day where I was a part of a committee or I was asked to be a part of a committee via email. I'd never met these people in my life within the organization. So we met one day in the meeting room, and I walked in, and there were 3 Caucasian ladies sitting in there. I walked in, they looked at me, but continued on with their conversation, didn't care to ask who I was. And I sat there very quietly, just waiting for the meeting to start. Another lady came in, and she sat down, Caucasian lady as well. So of course, once again, and I became very used to being the only Black face in these spaces. So I just sat there and waited for the meeting to start. And then one of the ladies said, okay, well, we're just waiting for Tess to arrive. And once she gets here, we'll start. So I said, I'm Janice. And she was like, oh, because I guess through emails and having a name like Tanis Russell, you don't necessarily associate that with a Black woman. So that was very fascinating as well. And I also remember another meeting that I was in. This one's kind of funny. I'm in the meeting, my first time meeting all of these new people. Of course, once again, the only Black face in the room. Mm-hmm. And they were coming up with posters that they wanted to post around the organization for a particular initiative. So I'm sitting there and all of the faces on these posters were white faces. There was no diversity in any of these posters whatsoever. So the background to the posters were white. So this woman, white lady in the room, says, the posters are great. I think it's a great idea. She's like, but I find them very white. Of course, I noticed this very instantly. But of course, once again, I'm kind of thinking, I don't know if I should say something. It's my first time in this meeting. And I'm very mindful of that. Let's try to not be the angry Black girl or the angry Black woman in the space. And no matter how you say something, I find it doesn't matter. They take it as you being angry. Yeah. So I just felt like, you know what? I'm just going to sit here and I'm just going to be quiet for a little bit. Just get used to all of this first. And she goes, I find the posters very white. Well, everybody in the room looked at them and they're like, well, just the background. Like they really did not notice that there was a lack of diversity in the posters. They thought she was referring to the background. And I knew what she meant. And then she said, no, I'm not referring to the background. I'm referring to it's only white people in these posters. There's no representation of diversity. Then the lead of this project turns to me and she's like, well, it's a good thing we have Tanis here. She can be the face of diversity. And I was like, wow. I did not realize how offensive. Yeah, like that's just another way of calling me the token Black girl. Thank you very much.
I was just about to say, you're the token. Yeah.
But yeah, so I've experienced a lot of that. I've experienced the stories I can tell and I will not. Let's just put it that way. People not directly coming to me to address concerns or feeling comfortable enough to come to me, going around me, having my boss come to me to tell me stuff because they don't want to speak to me. And I'm telling you, I've never given anybody any impression of me being the angry Black woman. I'm very professional at work, very assertive at work. I honestly couldn't tell you. Honestly, could not tell you.
It's a stigma that they put on.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like they already have these preset mindsets of who they think we are.
Yeah.
But honey,
that is not
when we rise.
Absolutely. Yes, we do.
I can't. When we rise, they want to go low, but we have to go high.
We go high. We go high. Yeah.
Jill said it right. Like that and just, where you are. That's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. You said something that was so profound when you said that, they would talk about you being able to say a sentence or you're here and you just brushed it off because you said one day I may just be your leader. And look, like you said, Tiff, they hit low, but I'm just gonna go high.
Go high. Yeah. And I did become the clinical practice lead for that unit. So
are you the first Black person to be in that role?
Yes.
So right here, ladies and gentlemen, we have a historical Black figure here.
Yeah.
This is
you are making history. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. You are history. You are her story. Okay.
That's right. Like children and other people that come after us will know about you or hear about you in some way or form because this is history. In that city, town that you're in, that's amazing. And now there can be another Black boy and or girl who says, you know what? She did it. There was once a face there. I can too. Absolutely. I have something to look forward to achieve. That's amazing.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Writing a book?
I get that a lot. And anybody who would be interested, honestly, I'm so busy, but anybody who would want to come and speak to me and get my story and write it for me, more than welcome to do it. I think later on you would.
Well, no, I have the title for your book.
Oh, okay. Well, I want to hear it.
The Hustle of Miss Russell.
The hustle.
Copywritten right now.
It's in my spirit.
Ain't nobody can take this. I don't care if your last name is Russell. It's only
That's it.
That's
I love that. Thank you.
Please
I will
write
thank
it
you
down.
for that.
And we're going to look forward to this book. If you have a Mac, we found out the other day that if you press the FN in the Word, you can actually dictate and it will write your book. Just talk to it. Let it know what you want. Yes.
Got it.
Double tap it and you just dictate. You start at the very beginning because your story is actually so inspiring and it's motivating. You mentioned a lot about, certain things that started earlier in your life. You had a child early, you got married early, but you didn't allow any of those things that external people, outside people may say, wow, those are some big hurdles that you had to go through early. Like, why, how did you get here? You still took every stride. You jumped over everything that life threw at you, every obstacle. And it's so profound. Like Tiff said, your story is making history. And even in how you deal with the people that you work with who may see you as a token person or who may not respect you, that has left something with them where they're like, okay, you know what? I've been disrespectful. I've been rude and she hasn't even lashed out at me. So you know what? They're looking within themselves. I mean, it may not take today or tomorrow, but we'll hit them soon enough. Exactly.
One day.
This is like a side story that came to mind. But in the Bible, there's a story of Joseph.
Yes.
And Joseph told his brothers, hey, I have a dream. You will bow down to me.
Mm-hmm.
They laughed at him. They sold him into slavery. And years later, honey, when he was at the top, who was coming?
His brothers.
And so when you're speaking to me and you have that mindset of, well, you can think that it's surprising to see a Black person speak well, and it's surprising to have this Black person at the table.
Mm-hmm.
Your focus was so streamlined that it did not get the comments that would take people to another mental platform. You did not even let that get to you. The staring, you did not allow that get to you. The way that your bosses interacted with you, your coworkers, all of that people would have a story on TMZ. you took and you used that to propel you into the position where you are now. And I think that is something to be applauded. It may not make a big difference to you, but for people who are maybe hot-tempered or have a Scotch bonnet tongue, my lord, that is that kind of attitude that is memorable, as Dee was saying, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think you bulldoze your story, but like sit and own what you did because it got you to where you are.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Like, yeah. I'm so proud to know you, even if it's in this forum, because I didn't hear or know your story before this interview. And your story it's not just captivating and motivating and inspirational. Like there's so much to it that in every aspect of what you've said today, someone can learn and leave with something. It's not just something where it's like, okay, like we're just going to listen to her talk. Like I'm over here like, you know what? I do need to, because I'm sometimes can be hot tempered. So, if in certain situations I would have been like, why are you talking about my hair? But you're right in what you said, let them talk, look at it, chuckle a little, but there's a bigger goal. There's an end game. And once you have your mind set to those things, you can really achieve it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I was not going to give into it. So I'm glad because, I would always think if I was to sit here and argue with them and get on their, create tension and animosity and things like that, when I come back to be their leader, it's going to be harder to lead them. And that's not what I wanted. And to be very honest, going back to lead them, I I have respect because they know the kind of nurse that I was when I worked with them. And that was one thing I made sure I kept my nursing standards up. Like nobody can say Tannis didn't take care of her patients, because Tannis took care of her patients very well. Right. So they didn't have anything to say. And I had the respect, and I have the respect of the most senior people in that unit. So that was very, very important to me in the end. Yeah.
So super humble.
Right? It's amazing.
I've been like, girl, let me tell you.
It's so good.
I love it.
So I guess I want to kind of transition a little bit, because you are in the health field, and I feel like it would be remiss of us to not ask about how it's been with COVID. Now, what we see outside is, whatever is on the news, whatever they show. How has it been being a frontline worker during this time?
Very challenging. I will not tell any lies. I actually had COVID myself last year, March. I did not know I had COVID because I did not even think COVID was here yet. It was more like a flu for 4 days, felt really, really horrible. And then after that, I developed a really bad cough that lasted about 3 months. But did not think it was COVID, just thought it was a flu. But as time went on and I went to the doctor for the cough that would never go away, she said, yeah, we're finding a lot of people who have had COVID have this cough, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God. So yeah, I had COVID, and it is definitely a real thing, and it feels absolutely horrible. One thing I want to do is applaud my staff, because they did look, the rules were changing every day as to what mask to wear, what to wear, what not to do, how to come in, what symptoms you should look for. Every day it was a new day. We were telling them something different. We were coming up with new policies. It was a lot. And we got pushback, but rightfully so. I did not blame them for being upset, because of course they have their loved ones to go home to and take care of. We did have a lot of sick people. We still continue to have sick people in our unit. Of course, we are the critical care unit, so we have the sickest of the sickest in the hospital. But the staff have been tremendous, and I know there's been some burnout, rightfully so. I can even attest to the fact that I've had burnout myself, and I also had to take some time off as a result of that. But yeah, it's very real. It's real. These people are very sick. They die very often. And there is no rhyme or reason to certain things. Right now, we just treat the symptoms because there is no cure for this. So it does take its toll. Wearing a mask for a whole 12-hour shift is a lot. When you're bathing a patient, that takes a lot of your energy to do. We have to remember critical care, once again, these are not patients who can help you or who can assist. They're in comas, they're heavily sedated. So they're very dependent on your care, and you have to wear this mask. I mean, when I go to the grocery store, I can barely breathe in my mask. Imagine having to wear a mask for 12 straight hours, working, helping other people with their patients. And if somebody's really sick, doing CPR with a mask on, and things like that. It's a lot. It's very trying. So I take no kudos at all. My team, for me, gets all the kudos. They've done tremendously well, and they have challenged where they feel they needed to challenge to protect themselves and their health and the health of their patients. So it is a trying time, but they're doing so well. I'm very proud of them.
And so I have a question now.
Yes.
Thinking about that. What's your relationship to the vaccine? Like
my relationship to the vaccine. Wow.
Very good question, Tiff.
I will be getting the vaccine as a healthcare worker. I feel it's the responsible thing for me to do. I'm also, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to discourage anybody from getting the vaccine. I feel more comfortable doing it because I'm done my child rearing. That's all I will say about that.
You just scared the.
No, that's all I will say. Of me. Yeah, that's all I will say about that. I don't know. See, the thing is, it hasn't been out long enough for them to tell you what the long-term effects of that are. Research takes time. Looking at the trends and the outcomes takes time. And I don't mean 5 years. I mean 10, 20, 30 years before you realize something's not good. People smoked all throughout the 40s, 50s, and 60s, not realizing that it was causing cancer, right? So you have to look at things like that. Like how is this going to look 30 or 40 years from now? I feel comfortable because, like I said, I'm not child rearing. I'm not looking to have children. So for me, I'm fine with it. You know, I have a daughter and, you know, she's immunocompromised, and I do worry, and I know she has to get it, but I do worry about her getting it because she's 18 and hasn't lived her life yet.
Yeah.
So I'm keeping my ear to the ground on the vaccine. So far, there isn't anything. I mean, there's been a couple of deaths, I believe, overseas, but they haven't directly linked it to the vaccine. So it's kind of a wait and see approach. I know a lot of people who have gotten it. People in my family have received it and they're fine. You know, my aunt said she felt a little ill the first day after, but after that she was fine. So, you know, I haven't heard anything negative about it other than what I've heard with a couple of cases overseas. And if you look at the grand scale of the vaccine and how much, I mean, we've given millions of this vaccine to people across the world. And if only 1 or 2 people are linked to possibly dying as a result of the vaccine, it's actually not bad. That's actually pretty good, to be honest with you. So I'm encouraging people to take the vaccine. I'm also encouraging people to do their research and make sure that you're getting your research from the appropriate sources.
Yes.
And not the WhatsApp groups from the West Indies.
Not your Bubba roots.
Right? Or Wikipedia.
Yeah, from your medical sources, lots of medical journals out there that are speaking about this, from the World Health Organization, otherwise known as WHO. Lots of healthcare organizations who can definitely guide you with your research, including public health. But I know people are skeptical of things they hear. So just do your research for yourself and feel comfortable within yourself when you decide to or not take the vaccine. I think there'll be a day when you won't have a choice, but
I like my things like I like my men, just a little mature.
Just a little bit. I know. I cannot tell you how many people I know who are like, I'm just going to sit back for a bit and just kind of see how this
20,000 goes.
See how it plays out with everybody else.
Get me in the second round or the third round.
Yeah, I'm a catch later train. I don't know.
Yes. But as a responsible healthcare professional, you know, I definitely would say do your research and I will be receiving the vaccine. So that's all I can say at this point.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think this was a very well done interview. Like, I mean, I'm wrapping up myself, Tiff, and you. Because, I mean, you gave us everything that we needed. You provided us with, you kept with the whole TMI feel. You were thought-provoking, motivational, and inspirational, which is very good. And we really appreciate that. Thank you so much. All the best to you and all the nurses worldwide, as well as doctors, all healthcare professionals within this time. Stay safe.
Thank you. You too.
We go. So I'm going to say something and you got to echo it. Okay.
Okay.
It's what we do. It's our little tradition here at TMI. So thanks so much for watching. That's Just TMI, guys. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Here at TMI, we are thought-provoking, motivational, inspirational.
Have
Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.